Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And as you might already know, this is LinkedIn month. I love the month where we dedicate every program to LinkedIn because I think it is the most important social media platform for business professionals to be on. And I love talking to my guests because they're going to tell us all why we need to be using LinkedIn. So please join me in welcoming Iris Culp to our program today. Welcome, Iris. How are you doing today?
Hey, I am great. And thank you. Yes, I am totally in your vibe. LinkedIn is the most important social platform.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you and then we will dive into this. So Iris Culp is the principal at IC Growth, a marketing consulting and business growth firm. She has more than a decade of marketing experience and has helped clients double their top line revenue in less than 24 months. Prior to the current focus of marketing strategies for solopreneurs and micro business owners, she worked professionally as a writer, as well as having over 20 years in HR and organizational development. She worked in HR leadership roles at American Airlines Sabre, where she had led several nationwide initiatives. She earned a master's degree in adult education and also holds multiple HR certifications. Additionally, Iris is an authorized partner for the 5 behaviors of a cohesive team and a certified everything DISC facilitator for leadership and sales. Her firm, IC Growth, is focused on helping small business owners leverage the power of LinkedIn to organically grow for a consistent and full sales pipeline. She has developed a signature program in that space titled LinkedIn for Business, 6 weeks from questions to confidence. Iris describes herself as a creative analytic who loves research and data and blends that with a creative twist. She finds it particularly fun to support entrepreneurs who happen to be fellow introverts, and I'm not sure I'd consider you an introvert. And she helps them find an authentic way to tell their own story and to find their ideal audience. In her spare time, when there is some, Iris loves to dig in her flower garden, create landscapes, ride motorcycles, and read. So again, Iris, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. That is wonderful and warm welcome. I greatly appreciate it.
I love it. Well, I always like knowing from our guests how they got to where they are today. So tell us how you discovered that this truly is your passion in life.
Well, interesting question, and thanks for asking this. So it was probably about 9 months into my launch of my business, which coincidentally happened like 12 days before the pandemic really took off. Yes, that I really kind of thought, I have a very unusual background, if you would. I've been told this multiple times to be focused on LinkedIn and LinkedIn for Business. And it really comes down to, I love to help people tell their story.
Right.
And there's that creative twist that writing, photography, I spent time in. And then I really bring it down to, I love to help people unpack the best way to communicate.
Okay.
And that is, I'll say, the key theme, both on my HR side as well as the LinkedIn for Business. What I saw happening during the early days of the pandemic was that a lot of the traditional avenues of business development for the small business owner had been interrupted, shut off, or severely impacted. And then LinkedIn started making significant changes to kind of lean into helping people stay connected with their audience, both ideal and ancillary audiences. And so I had this theory, and it had come from my work as a certified career coach which had preceded for about 7 years, helping laid off executives find work and market themselves. A lot of those people were boomers like myself, highly skilled. And I think I'm an ambivert. So I'm an introvert by nature, but I know that I need to move into other spaces at times to be heard and understood. But anyway, I saw a lot of people struggling, business owners, and I thought, let me apply these skills and this knowledge base that I've been developing and see if I could be helpful in the LinkedIn for Business space. And so I, being the data nerd that I am and proud of it, I did a survey of about 115 business leaders and backed it up with about 10 interviews. And really the trend that came out of that, I mean, I literally, did the trend analysis and all that stuff. And it really came down to these two things. I don't know what to do. So I'm either spraying and praying, but most of the people were like, I don't know what to do. And I don't want to spray and pray. I think we all kind of intuitively understand what that means. So I'm not doing anything. And I thought, okay, so I think there's an opportunity to train and provide value. And then I beta tested that signature program. And surprisingly enough, even to myself, I was focused on brand and building and identity because that is a sweet spot of passion for me. But I saw almost half of the class before the 6 weeks was up had people contact them out of the blue, so to speak, and ask them to take on new contracts or new gigs, new jobs. And that surprised even me. So not that I had low expectations, but I didn't want to promote something that I couldn't be confident that it was going to deliver. So that was encouraging. And then I've tweaked and refined and continue to offer it in a self-paced setup with weekly coaching clinics that builds the collaboration and accountability. So that's kind of a long answer to say kind of how I arrived there. I'm one of those people, there's never really a simple way. I tend to take I tend to take the complicated way, but that's okay. That's who I am. And that's what I share with people. Your LinkedIn profile really shouldn't be built off of just a template. If yours sounds too much like someone else's, it's not really yours. And that's part of that personal branding experience. And that's the power, I think, particularly of LinkedIn, because it's the only database in the world that is a worldwide database of talent with all our expertise built in. So anyway, that's I guess I'm adding why I feel so passionately about LinkedIn. I think
I love it.
I think it holds a very unique space.
Right. And it's one of those platforms that's been around for quite a while. And the nice thing is they do make changes. Sometimes I think they make changes because they're like, ooh, Facebook does that, so we're going to do it too. And then those changes don't last. And then there are things that they have that they take away that I'm like, oh, bummer. I like that part. But it really is a platform that is evolving. And we were talking about this a little bit before we started the conversation. Originally it really was, this is how you get a job. You cut and pasted your resume there. You kind of connected with people and you went from that. And it has evolved from that so much. But so many people, especially executives, still think that it is just for getting jobs. And so what's your thought on that?
Oh my gosh, can I destroy that myth right now?
Yes, you may. Just kapoo, kapoo.
Absolutely happy to. So 2 thoughts on that. One of them is the data. The data says that LinkedIn has 15 times more business content impressions than job listings or job openings. And you're right. And I think their constant pivoting, so to speak, is the heart of their success. And to add another thought on this, yes, they do roll out new tools pretty consistently. What I do like about their approach, I don't like everything, but what I do like about their approach is they'll roll it out and they'll announce this is in a beta. They do a lot of analytics to see what's working, what's not. And then they pretty much announce a decision. We're keeping it or we're tossing it. So I think that's a real wise way to approach new development. Now, in terms of the job content and someone who maybe has been ignoring LinkedIn, I would issue a warning. ignore LinkedIn if you're a CEO or a high-level executive at your own peril.
Right.
And that, I truly mean that. Here's what I've run into. Someone maybe is a CEO or very high-level executive, perhaps they own the firm, and they're like, I don't really need LinkedIn. I'm not going to ever look for a job. Well, go do what's called defensive Googling. Look your name up and see what shows up.
Right.
Okay. If your LinkedIn profile hasn't been updated in, say, 5-8 years, it
might not even appear. I mean, it's going to be so far down that,
Right. I was recently reading about one such executive leader, and what showed up first in the results when he did defensive Googling was the divorce details.
Oh. Well, I've seen bankruptcies and things like that too.
Right. So I'm real passionate that you should take control of your brand.
Right.
And if
Google likes like LinkedIn. And so LinkedIn comes up fairly high when you've been active.
Right. And LinkedIn, that URL extension, so to speak, has the highest, I'll simplify it because this is not my area, but basically has the highest SEO ranking you can have.
Yeah.
So if you're going to show up, make sure how you show up is how you want to show up.
Right, right.
So some people, particularly boomers, which I am, will say, I don't need a personal brand. You have one.
You have one, whether
you're being intentional or not.
So do you want to control it or have it controlled by everything else?
Thank you. Exactly. Words fitly spoken. So yeah, you have a brand, whether you're paying attention to what that brand is or not. So please, for anything you consider holy or important, take control of your brand.
Right. And it's so important because, and during this whole series this month, I mean, part of what we'll talk about is the fact that you have to personalize that URL. Otherwise it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Absolutely.
And again, that's, Google goes, huh? we don't understand that, and so, that's important. But how many times when we're getting ready to meet with someone for the first time, or maybe we're on a webinar with them or things like that, have you popped over to LinkedIn and typed their name in?
Every day, multiple times a day. Any networking meeting, virtual networking, which is here to stay. It is totally first impression. And as we all know, first impressions stick.
Right.
And LinkedIn is the epitome of the first impression. So don't leave it to chance.
Right. Yeah. I tell people who are in the job market, in essence, it's your first interview. If you don't have really what it takes there, or if you have nothing, that is better than having something that is not well done. And so I tell people, because there are people who they don't want, okay, fine. That's I'm sure their TV still have, the rabbit ear antennas. But it's like we said, you want to be in control of it. So it needs to be current. It needs to, all of those various things that we all just beat through everybody's head. But I think it comes back to, the people that they just really don't understand how important it is. I posted something on Facebook last week, and I was talking about something on LinkedIn, and a professional who I know said, I've stopped using LinkedIn because it's a waste of time.
Wow.
And
they're uninformed.
And 5 of us commented and said, really, it's the most important business tool I use. So that is kind of the theme of this program, is convincing people that it really is critical.
Right. Well, here's the thing. It can be truth, whether someone believes it or not.
Right.
And so, it's very much, it's the equivalent of, if you have an in-person business, does your business have a sign out front? So you can think about it that way. The other thing that I think is critical is you want to approach it in such a way, even if you're a hyper local business, you should have, in my opinion, of course, a presence on LinkedIn, because what an ideal opportunity for referral partnerships and building that brand, and really that brand and authority and credibility. And I want to touch on, if I can, with your permission, there is a trend that I see LinkedIn continuing to lean into and growing. And that is the personal profile. And this is a question I often get, the personal profile or a company page.
Which one should I have?
Which one should I have? Okay. So as you would expect, I'm going to say both. And if someone asks me, cut the baby in half, I'm going to say, well, if you have to cut the baby in half, which I don't want you to do, do the personal, because people don't want to engage with the logo. They want to engage with the person.
We work with people.
Right. It's a social platform. But what I do see LinkedIn continuing to do, and I think we're going to see more of it in the future, is really build up the robust tools within the company page. So for example, LinkedIn events, it is really, from what I see across the marketing spectrum, particularly if you're in a business to business space of any sort, LinkedIn events done from a company page are the best sales pipeline tool, top of the funnel, lead magnet, however you want to categorize that, than anything else, beats direct mail. And when LinkedIn brought it back in 2019, late 2019, of course, the world was pretty distracted early 2020. A lot of people overlooked the changes that LinkedIn had made to events. So just as a quick high level, events done from a company page, you can invite up to 1,000 connections per day. I mean, you can, and you do it in about 15 minutes. So the bandwidth they've put behind that new structure is amazing. The other thing they've done that is often overlooked is that they then make you, depending on how you set it up, you can receive a download Excel spreadsheet of everyone who says they want to come with their email, their information, the whole thing. Exactly. Talk about a lead magnet. So there's that piece, and there's some particulars that I'm not going to go into, that, some privacy things that have to be worked through logistically. And then let's say that those people show up, or a portion of those people show up, because LinkedIn makes it so easy to invite.
I just go through and I go, okay.
Yeah, but they make
because I don't want to hurt their feelings, right?
Well, here's the thing: they make it equally as sucky, poorly executed, to have them actually get reminders or show up at the event. So I've developed a mini course that helps you know how to thread the needle on that and get the best of both worlds. But anyway, so when, let's say, half of the people attend, then you just got 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or whatever. And I have some specific recommendations around that too. But you have, let's say, 45 minutes to talk to your ideal client and shorten that know, like, and trust cycle on scale versus 45-minute in-person or even virtual coffees with, say, the 50, 70, 100 people that attend.
That's a lot of virtual coffees.
Oh my gosh. So you do it in 45 minutes versus whatever. It doesn't work for everything you're going to offer, but it is a great lead magnet, just in a general way, shorten that know, like, and trust cycle. So that's an example of, I'll say, the juice they're putting behind the LinkedIn company page. If you do an event from your personal profile, after about 400 invites, your profile is going to get restricted, and you're going to LinkedIn
because it seems
and
pretty
you go into
spammy.
LinkedIn jail. You go into LinkedIn jail. So that's what I say when I think both are important, and they're continuing to, I'll say, move the dial on what the LinkedIn company pages can do. So I say your LinkedIn company page is like a miniature website. And I could give several illustrations, but for sake of brevity and moving on to another aspect, I will pause there on both profiles.
Well, and the business page, my kind of assumption was, they were originally set up so that businesses could do jobs. They could do job postings. And that's where a lot of LinkedIn's money comes from.
Absolutely.
It's still coming from that. And so like, I, as a person, can't do a job posting. my business page can do a job posting. And so
Absolutely.
that's where that comes in. But you're right. They're making them so much more robust now
Yes.
because people aren't using them just for job postings.
Right. You can have a showcase page
Mm-hmm.
and, you can highlight certain signature products or
Mm-hmm.
services or all that thing. Here's another take. I totally agree with you that, the company page and the job postings was probably the impetus.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is the other kind of brilliant thing about the way LinkedIn has done company pages. So I like to say, let's all step back and think about how LinkedIn makes money.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to know how to push the levers on the platform,
Right.
that's a paradigm to think through,
Mm-hmm.
of course. So they make money when they can tell advertisers, which pricey, by the way. But anyway.
Oh yeah,
when they
much
tell
more pricey than Facebook.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh. But anyway, so when they say, hey, our dwell time, so they're basically, as all social media tools are, renting an audience's
Right.
eyeballs,
Mm-hmm.
just television other.
Mm-hmm.
So it is renting the eyeballs. So the magic secret sauce that LinkedIn likes is dwell time.
Mm-hmm.
Dwell time. So they measure dwell time. And the more, when you have a robust company page, you can go from a personal post or article you've written to referring to something to the
Mm-hmm.
company page. Those eyeballs have stayed on LinkedIn's platform.
Right.
Versus if you take them to your website,
Mm-hmm.
your offsite blog, so it's in their best
Mm-hmm.
interest, and it's in your best interest as a company leader,
Right,
to have some of that
Mm-hmm.
more full branded
Mm-hmm.
material, etc., on a company page,
Right.
and then kind of interact, because the algorithm is going to love you.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Because LinkedIn, I mean, it's like any platform, I whatever it is, it needs you to stay there.
Yes, it wants you to stay there.
That's
Yes.
why, like, for example, Facebook doesn't like if you put a link to a YouTube video, because
Right.
you're leaving their platform.
Right.
It's much preferable
Always.
to put the video, to upload it into Facebook. Because
Yeah.
if you go somewhere else, we're like squirrel, because then we get caught up on what's there and we forget,
bet.
oh yeah, we were doing something on that platform.
You bet. Absolutely. So
Right.
yeah, know what the thing is made for, and then you'll know how to.
Right.
I'll
How to
say it
use it.
this way:
Mhm.
how to exploit it in the best of ways.
Right. Yeah. And that's the way it is made. And so
Right.
that's what they like. And with my very first guest this month, Brian Basilico, we talked about one of my absolute favorite company things that they have added, and that's the
Brian's
newsletter.
great.
Oh my God, I
Yes.
love newsletters.
Oh yeah.
Now, the only thing that I don't like, and hopefully LinkedIn will change this, is that for those of us who have multiple company pages,
Okay.
you can't do multiple newsletters. And I'm hoping that they realize, there are those of us out there who are, serial entrepreneurs,
Right.
and we're going to have multiple things. But I love the newsletters because,
Yes.
that I get far more people that well, first of all, that subscribed, and then that
Sure.
actually read my newsletters than I do in any other format.
Right.
It just,
right.
it's a
and that was
great
another
place. Mhm.
right. Another brilliant move on their part to bring that back, link it to the company page,
Right. Yep.
and then your followers immediately
Mhm.
get notified.
Mhm.
So they're really in 2019. Yes, 19. They also made the shift, and I think I can quote. It was Pete Davies, who was a senior product marketing manager at LinkedIn, said they noticed that it had become a little bit of an echo chamber for the Richard Branson's, Bill Gates of the world, etc.
Mhm.
And so they, before any of the other platforms, to my knowledge, moved it very dramatically to people connecting and talking about things you care about.
Right.
So it's how your network reacts. Some people are stuck in the old paradigm of, I want to have 20,000 followers and that's going to somehow translate to something. No, your followers aren't.
It is
quality.
Quality versus quantity.
And purchases don't happen on the platform. They happen, as my teenagers will say, IRL, in real life. So I use such a quick term. So, business is always done IRL, and I mean virtual. I'm counting, virtual meetings as an IRL in this analogy. But that's something to really pay attention to, is I call followers and views of your post vanity metrics, because
Hmm.
that's really what
Right.
it is.
Hmm.
So are you following vanity metrics, or are you following metrics that matter?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Because, it's one of the, 500 people could, might see it. But two of those were the people
mhm,
you were actually trying to reach. And clearly it depends on what your product is, what your service is,
right, right,
all of
right,
those things. But yeah, I mean, the people who get caught up in any of the numbers,
right,
the one of the ones that drives me the craziest are and this is on any platform, the number of connections.
right, right,
And the people that say, "Oh my gosh, I'm at the 30,000 for
right,
LinkedIn."
right,
There's no way that you can be using that in any way that's optimal, because first of all, you can't read that many posts. Now,
right.
granted, a good portion of people, and here's the other thing, most people don't use LinkedIn, nearly as much as the other platforms. So when you post, it does tend to stand out.
Right.
But so all 30,000 people are not posting. But you can't. There's no way you can connect with 30,000 people in a meaningful
Meaningful
way.
way. Right. Right. And you're absolutely hitting on the juggernaut of what I'm talking
Mhm.
about, which is, when that platform pivoted, it
Mhm.
was significant.
Right.
And I talk to occasionally individuals saying, well, I have this many, or I have this few. And I'm always around, what's your goal? In
Mhm.
fact, I talked to
Right.
someone fairly recently who said, I said, okay, so this individual was talking to me about, maybe really exploiting in a good
Mhm.
way their LinkedIn presence and brand. And this company had only ever done word of mouth referrals, and they
Mhm.
were wanting to get in the driver's seat and doing something a lot more intentional. And I said, okay, so just off the cuff, what's your wildest goal for
Mhm.
LinkedIn? And she said, I don't know, maybe 10,000 followers. So that immediately told me kind of where the
Mhm.
bandwidth of expectation was.
Mhm.
So I had to unravel
Mhm.
that expectation that would actually translate to business.
Mhm.
So that's probably what I would say is, a really common mistaken
Mhm.
impression, that followers on LinkedIn is analogous to, say, followers on YouTube and
Right.
monetizing it.
Mhm.
No company is going to pay you for your followers on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. You need to think through
Mhm.
what your customer
Mhm.
journey is,
Mhm.
and then how to extract that. And that's part of
Right.
one of the training
Right.
programs I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and it's also, I cleaned my office. Took me 3 days to clean my office. And one of the things I did, I threw out piles of business cards.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
and I mean, some of these were business cards that I had had for, they were in there with in their nice little pretty sleeve,
Yes,
right?
yes,
All of
I
these
have.
various things.
I've had that.
And and it was, I remember when I was doing all of this before, thinking, look, I've got X number of business cards. So these are people I've probably actually touched,
Yeah,
literally,
exactly,
and
exactly.
but there's no way that unless your pile of business cards is like 100 or so, maybe 1,000, you can't connect with those, and so that's why I pitched them. For one thing, I didn't even know if they were even still valid in many cases.
Exactly,
But at the
exactly.
same point, yeah, you get those piles of business cards, and think, when we used to go to industry trade shows, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, seminars, those things, and you came back with your stack of business
Yes,
cards.
yes,
It meant nothing, because you just got business cards from anybody who would hand you a business card.
right.
You might have written something on it, hey,
Yeah, yeah.
Iris does
May or may
this.
not remember, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and the same thing is with LinkedIn. If you're not connecting with the right people, it doesn't matter what the numbers are. Now, again, there are some people who I know, and especially like salespeople. Because
Mhm.
LinkedIn is very, they're going to reach out, they're going to touch people. We just mentioned Brian. Brian is really good at touching 150 people on LinkedIn every month, and they're different 150 people. So he's going through quite a few, but most of us are not going to do that.
Right.
And so yeah, it's all about having the right connections. And maybe that's 100. I mean,
Yeah.
and it all depends on what you're using it for and everything else.
Yeah, I had a software developer connect with me for conversation because he was looking at developing some what he considered new tools
Mhm.
for extracting valuable data
Mhm.
from the platform. So I just gave him some insights.
Mhm.
And then the end of the conversation, I said, you know, what would actually, I think, and I haven't seen anyone develop
Mhm.
it. So all you magically brilliant software developers that might be listening to this, I haven't seen, and I would love to see, and I think others would too, a tool that helps you extract and sort your profiles
Mhm.
and decrease your connections,
Right.
because that's what
Yeah.
I
Do I
see
really know these people? Mhm.
that's what I see people doing
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, we could talk forever about vanity metrics,
Right.
but yeah,
Well,
yeah,
and also, if it would also weed out the people who aren't active.
yes, yes,
I don't want to be connected with somebody who either A, hasn't updated anything in probably a year,
right,
or B, hasn't posted anything. It's
right.
because it's two-pronged,
Right,
whatever.
right. And
It's not a
there,
fork. I'm
even,
lost on what the two
yeah,
prongs
that's
would be.
okay. Yeah, and even on the free version, you can tell at a pretty quick glance if they
Mhm.
have not posted in 90
Right.
days.
Hmm.
And if you have a premium version,
Hmm.
you can actually set it as a pre-filter.
Yep. Hmm.
So yeah, it's a criteria.
Hmm.
Now, I mean, LinkedIn, I'll say in its quote algorithm, which is an
Hmm.
amorphous term because it's multiple algorithms,
Hmm.
but will prioritize
Hmm.
people who have some basics, a
Hmm.
completed profile, and there's like 7 main
Right.
cores to that. If they don't have a profile photo up,
Hmm.
they don't even show. They're
Right.
probably on the
Hmm.
780th
Hmm.
page. So they build it around who's consistent,
Right.
who's
Because it
active.
doesn't want to show you somebody that's not going to be a good connection.
Right. And something interesting. So I did an experiment. It was probably more than a year ago. Put in the word project manager.
Hmm.
Well, 8 million results.
Of course.
Right.
Because
So,
everybody puts project manager somewhere in their
right.
profile.
So when I'm helping people kind of brand themselves, I'll say, okay, pretend someone is looking for your precise
Hmm.
skills. What keywords are they going to
Hmm.
use? And then put them all in. And it helps people rethink the
Yeah.
title they're using.
Right.
And then LinkedIn almost doubled the amount of character spaces available in 2020.
Hmm.
So you can get a lot more
Hmm.
granular, and you can like always think about from a keyword and optimization.
Hmm.
And this is a little bit into the weeds, but I think this is probably the biggest um, one of the biggest overlooked opportunities.
Hmm.
It's based on a Boolean operator. So think Google
Hmm.
at a very high level.
Hmm.
If someone was searching for exactly what you
Hmm.
do,
Hmm.
exactly what your firm does, exactly what you deliver, have you given them any clues to find you in your profile?
Right. Hmm.
Keywords,
Hmm.
headlines, the about section. The
Hmm.
headline and the about section are the most SEO sensitive.
Hmm.
So be thoughtful. So
Right.
anyway, that's
Right.
kind of a
I'm
real
going to
basic tip.
lead. I want to read your headline. And I had to rearrange it here on my screen to make sure I can see it. So your headline is Thought Partner for Personal and Business Brand Clarity and Focus. LinkedIn Consultant, Marketing Strategist, DISC Authorized Partner, accredited in cohesive teams, helping others make LinkedIn their superpower. Ding, 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 ding. No, I didn't say ding, ding. I added the ding, dings. But right there, anybody who reads your headline knows who you are, what you do, and more importantly, is it something that interests me? If I'm not wanting to learn how to use LinkedIn,
Yeah, keep
then I might not
scrolling.
connect with you.
Yeah, keep scrolling, girl.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a little bit of put your stake in the ground and
Hmm.
explain who you are. You're not a fit for
Hmm.
everybody. I'm certainly not a fit for everybody. I
Right.
don't pretend to be.
Right.
I tend to be very brass tacks. I'm like, I'm mature enough, gray haired
Hmm.
enough, whatever you want to say, to be like, okay, let's not waste time.
Yeah.
Life is
Hmm.
short. Let's cut to the chase. And all my life, I typically worked around engineers or
Hmm.
incredibly
Very detail oriented and
detail
hmm.
PhDs,
Hmm.
incredibly smart people. And, I'm just going to cut to the chase. Now, I'm never going to intend to hurt your feelings,
Hmm.
but I'm also not going to beat around the bush. Life's
Right.
just too short.
Hmm.
Let's talk. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I tell people, the very first little snippets that they get, whether it's your about section, your headline, whatever, that is where they figure out if they want to read further. I mean, it's just exactly
Absolutely.
like the old newspaper. I actually still get a newspaper.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey,
you
above the
know,
fold, right? Above the
I know.
fold.
And what is the headline? Does that headline
Right.
now, of course, unfortunately, what we have seen, and I want to advise people, to watch this too, are these sensationalized headlines.
Oh, yeah. Kind
The
of a pet
ones
peeve.
that's, yeah, don't get, superfluous and
Yes.
flowery in your terms just to get those eyeballs. You don't want to do that, because to me it's kind of like false advertising, right? How many times have
Yeah.
you read the headline in wherever, USA
Right.
Today, People, whatever,
Yeah.
and get partway through the article and go, well, this makes no sense. And of course,
Yeah.
part of that is, I'm in the
Yeah.
PR world, so I know it's two different people who write those things.
Yes. And then there's, yeah, I think most of us in today's world of, from the last I read, we get subjected to 30,000 brand images
Mhm.
per day.
Yep. Oh
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. So I think we all have developed a shield
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
a
And a
BS,
filter.
a
Mhm.
BS meter,
Mhm.
right? I
Yep.
saw someone I know tangentially,
Mhm.
and this person had posted, not in their headline, but in a post they'd made
Mhm.
about how to get millions of dollars from LinkedIn.
Mhm.
So,
So you read it because you're thinking millions. Wow.
well, I think most of us have that BS filter so fine tuned. And I will say teenagers are better at it than any other part of
Mhm.
the population, always. But I think we all kind of have that
You went
skin,
millions? No way.
right? Okay, well, what's your strategy?
Mhm.
So the implied was just upgrade your brand and like
Mhm.
millions are going to flock in your door. All of us know that
Right.
life is not, you start at A and 2 seconds later you're
Mhm.
at Z. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's a bit annoying, but I think
Mhm.
most people see through that. It's
Mhm.
authentic connections that
Right.
build a business, and it's
Mhm.
authentic service that
Mhm.
builds a brand, and
Mhm.
it's the experience
Mhm.
that people have.
Right.
And you might get some eyeballs, but then you're going for vanity
Right.
metrics,
Right.
and those don't
You know,
matter.
and it comes back to what you were saying before with the first impression.
Hmm.
If I read something like that and my first impression is, oh my gosh, this is better than, too good to be true,
Right.
then I'm probably not going to trust what they say. I mean, it's kind of the used car salesman thing.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
going
for
to
sure.
promise me everything under the sun, and they really can't do any of it.
Right. No, and we all intuitively, I think, understand it. And that's probably a piece of why some people just say, yeah, I don't bother. But actually, there's a lot of actual significant
Mhm.
business and relationship building going
Right.
on, I'll say, under the surface. So, yeah,
Mhm. Right,
yeah,
right. And you mentioned too the pandemic. It has just really been something that I think for those who know how to use LinkedIn, when we can't go now, I have not been to an in-person networking event since February of 2020.
hmm,
And I really don't see myself doing that. I used to go
right.
every week. I miss the people. I really miss seeing the people. The programs were okay. The food was good. I mean, we have Southern catering down here,
Yes.
so the food is always really good. But so I'm doing my networking online, and I'm
Right.
checking people out on LinkedIn.
Yes,
Even if I'm on a
absolutely.
different platform, I look at their
Yes,
LinkedIn profile.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And to piggyback on that, I know we talked a little bit earlier about the career component of LinkedIn. And here is something that happens, I want to say 100% of the time, but I tend to stray away from absolutes. I'll say most of the
Mhm.
time. Let's say someone is in a networking meeting, and I'm like, okay, maybe that person and I should have a virtual coffee. I will look at their LinkedIn and just say, does that really make sense
Right.
based on the
Hmm.
whole component? And in the job search space, here's what happens. Maybe the resume comes in through some source, and the screener, recruiter, hiring manager is looking at it thinking,
Hmm.
maybe I
Hmm.
should contact this
Right. Looks
person.
interesting.
They go to LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and then that's
And
the,
what do they match? Hmm.
yes.
Hmm.
And they tend to go to the recommendations, both from a business leader, business
Hmm.
connection, growth standpoint,
Hmm.
or hiring. They're making their choice based on the credibility, authority, or lack thereof
Right.
in
Right.
the LinkedIn
Hmm.
profile.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's huge.
Yeah. And it definitely is something where when I'm looking at somebody's profile, I really, really want to see that it's current.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and you know, it doesn't matter where I've met them, in person,
Right.
online. If
Yeah.
I can tell that the information they're putting there is not current, but now, granted, I mean, I have the filter of LinkedIn is very important. I mean, that's my very
Right.
first filter. But if I see that, you know, they haven't updated it, or, you know, they've got a sentence, you know, their about section is a sentence, right?
Right.
You know, then or worse, typos, grammatical
Oh,
errors.
ouch,
Oh
ouch,
yeah. Um,
ouch.
then my impression is that they're not going to be good at their business. That could
Yeah.
be completely wrong.
No, I think
Because
it's fair.
but yeah, that is where I form that
Sure.
impression.
Sure. First impression is unwindable. You
Mhm.
can't go back and
Yep.
unwind that first impression.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And that about section, I like to highlight how we were talking about above the fold
Mhm.
earlier,
Mhm.
which my minor college was journalism. And anyway, so I relate to that.
Mhm.
And when you
Mhm.
look at the about section, you have about 3 lines,
Mhm.
and then you have to say click to see more.
Right.
So
Mhm.
here's the analogy I
Mhm.
tend to make. There's 4 what I call beachfront properties of a
Mhm.
profile. The banner image, of course, your profile picture,
Yep.
critical, and I
Mhm.
won't go into the dig in the details on that, but it should represent you in the professional way you should be
Mhm.
represented. The headline we've talked about, and then that about section. So
Mhm.
those 4 areas are so critical. And when I say above the fold, I'm referring to the first 3 lines of the
Right.
about section
Mhm.
before they have to say click to see
Mhm.
more.
Yep.
That is a great space to get right to the
Mhm.
core distinctive
Mhm.
of what you do and how you bring transformation to
Right.
your clients.
Right.
The piece that if you're using LinkedIn for business growth, business development, business brand kind of work and space, make sure that about section is doing the heavy lifting. And if
Mhm.
we can, Deb, I think I might have share capabilities. Let me just do a quick
Yep.
look.
There we go. I think I just set it to do that.
Okay, so let's take a look and um, at because sometimes telling is great and sometimes showing is even
Right.
better.
Right. And we'll describe it so that you know people can.
Right. I'm going to describe it and right, those can see. So on a person's profile in that about section, it should be client facing,
Mhm.
meaning it should speak to the
Mhm.
ideal clients.
Right.
And then I'm
And I'm
going
not
to
seeing your
get,
screen. Do you want me to share
yeah,
mine?
no,
Okay.
I'm there. I want to get to the precise location
Okay.
because when I share, it will slow it down.
Right.
So,
And it's
but
always fun to make sure that, you know, we're sharing what we want people to see. I have some stories about when I was speaking and
uh-oh.
shared, you know, it was really funny. Things popped up on the screen and I was like, "Oh, that was not what I wanted people to see."
Yeah, I've been Zooming for about 8 years.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm thankful and thrilled that everyone kind of has that as a
Mhm.
norm
We've
now.
we finally figured that out, right? Yeah, that's
Right,
what screenshots are for and not
right,
live. Mhm.
right, right.
Right.
So let's see. In the about section
Mhm.
is what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And so what I recommend people do, so I'll be very thorough in describing
Mhm.
this, is if you have a lead magnet such as like mine right now, and I
Mhm.
change these up pretty often. My first 3 lines say, want to sort out what works on LinkedIn, get a weekly Tuesday tip delivered to your inbox,
Mhm.
4 minutes or less in a video, and then click here to get that.
Right.
Okay. So people don't even have to click see more
Mhm.
to get that.
Mhm.
So that's a strategic use
Mhm.
of that about section. And you can do the same throughout, and then
Mhm.
having an about section that really speaks to the value you deliver, who
Right.
your ideal
Well,
audience
and
is,
yours
etc.
is it's chunked up into
Right,
small, readable. You know, obviously the screen size changes this a bit, but
right,
short paragraphs, maybe 1 or 2 sentences.
right,
And again, you were the journalism student, lots of white space. You know, if it's just think of it this way, folks. If you're trying to read it and it is sentence, 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 pretty soon your head and your eyes go,
Absolutely.
And so you break it into things, and I love that we can use alt characters, which are the, you create
Yes.
check
Yeah.
marks, all those various things.
Right. Yeah.
And so you can create your own bullets. At some
Right.
point, I would really, 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 and hello, LinkedIn gods, whoever's paying attention to this, please let us do bold and italics. I wouldn't that be great? Those
Well,
and bullet and true bulleted lists.
there's a tool called Yay Text.
Oh yes, I love
YAY.
Yay Text. I
Okay.
use that,
Okay.
especially when I'm doing a post. I
Yeah.
will use Yay Text. I use Lingo Jam,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
those give you the ability to, for our listeners and our viewers, to create italicized, bold. I post for a lot of senior citizens who are playing bingo, and so I can
Oh,
actually do
nice.
bingo in little balls.
Oh, I've seen
I love it,
those.
right? So,
Right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so that, those are just some quick little ninja tricks here, folks, is to
Right.
use those programs to be able to spice up your profile to make it stand out, either highlight something or stand out from somebody else's.
Right. So this is one of my participants in my 6-week class.
Okay.
And I just like to show someone other than mine because, I always feel like I'm drawing too much attention to myself. That's the
Oh yeah,
introvert.
look at that. That's great. They've got
So
lots of nice
and
little
she does a
characters
lot of writing. That's one of her
Mhm.
full-time gigs, so to speak, or one of her core gigs. So yeah, breaking it up, and as you said, make it really readable,
Right.
and putting something in there that is only her. Football fan, da da da. Don't like walking, but I do so because it's good for me. You know what I mean?
I have
it's
college
okay.
sports fan in mine.
Yeah, there you go.
And I have had people who have connected with me just because of that.
Yes.
It caught their attention.
Yes.
They're college sports fans. Now, I also volunteer with the University of Colorado. And so, that is kind of part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tiny little way to catch someone's attention because of the whole know, like, trust.
Yes, it's that slice of, exactly, that cycle, and being relatable. And people relate and do that usually on some shared commonality. It's the human, condition. And I know someone who says, well, there should be nothing in my LinkedIn profile. Well, you haven't been paying attention for the last few years.
And I firmly believe that is why, and they did this years ago, LinkedIn added the volunteer section. Because we're going to look at that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And maybe, it's always entertaining, when people ask me, well, hey, I volunteer for my church. I volunteer for a political party. I tell them, it's okay to include it. Just don't go into a lot of detail.
Right.
And again, that comes back to kind of, one of the things I tell people, this is also a way. It's kind of like your headline. We were saying, people read it and know I want to connect or not. Right. Well, maybe I don't want to connect with somebody who has been very involved with a certain political party.
Right. Or they wear it on their sleeve, or it's or they're using LinkedIn more like Facebook. Yeah. So that's still pretty like, let's keep it professional. We can be personal and professional. And what I will say kind of on that topic, little tangent of that, people will say, well, how can I get my post to go viral? Okay. And I'm not saying
I know. I hate it when people say, I want my post to go viral. Well, then hire Kim Kardashian. Right?
But what I have seen as a rule, it's usually a blend of that personal and professional. Like I'll share an example of one that I saw a couple of months ago. And I mean, I do watch them, but so far, 99% of what I've seen kind of go viral is something such as, I graduated from college, and so did my father, who took 25 years working at, I don't know, the Postal Service or something. And he went back to college, and now we're graduating together. That kind of thing. It is professional, but there's a personal element. And I think that is totally relevant for LinkedIn, where the things you mentioned earlier are not, but that blend of persona, lots of times milestones. I mean, that kind of thing, just it's authentic. If it's personal, authentic, and has a professional vibe, that's what makes it.
And it's fine. I was working with a gentleman one time, and he was a lay minister at his
Hmm.
church. And he said,
Yeah.
should I put that in there? And I said, yes. Actually, I thought
Yeah.
about it. And then I went back and I said, yes. And I said several things. First of all, it shows you do public speaking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I said, and in that you can talk about, you do budgets, you do hiring, because that was, part of that. And so it
Absolutely.
gave him additional credibility,
You bet.
and it was just a great way for him to put it out there. And he said he did make several great connections simply because of that. It's kind
Right.
of one of those, if somebody, you get a negative, and I was looking through your profile. I'm a University of Colorado girl. You're in Oklahoma State, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I see. I wanted to make
Yes.
sure it was not
Yes.
OU. That was
Yeah.
the thing.
Uh-oh.
And so we,
Uh-oh.
we used to be direct competitors. And I remember one
Right.
time I connected with, and he was an Oklahoma State person. And
Okay.
so he started his, and we actually were connecting online. And so this is, again, folks, why this is important to include your education, because people connect with alumni.
Yes,
But
they
this
do.
guy connects with me and he says, well, I suppose I shouldn't talk to y'all since you are one of them buffaloes. He said,
Oh my
but
gosh.
I just hate OU.
Oh,
And then we
okay.
went from there. I mean, it was,
Okay. That human, that reciprocity of finding some common ground. So yeah, I think the pandemic did that for us.
Mhm.
You know, when LinkedIn was starting to lean a little bit more authentic, and then I think when we saw CEOs having Zoom things, and I'll say the cat walking across their desk, or their teenage daughter walking through the frame with a swimsuit on, and somebody panicking. I mean, all those things. So I welcome it, and I don't really see it going
It
back.
shows that we're real and that we're
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, this hour just flies. I love having
Yes.
these discussions. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people do?
Okay. Wow.
I know that's like a 3-hour topic, but
No, I think one of them we touched on earlier, underestimating the space LinkedIn holds from a credibility and brand perspective.
Right.
That would probably be number one. Yeah, never underestimate what it should be doing or can be doing. The other mistake, I think, is expectation. We touched on it, the expectation of the metrics that matter. And then probably the third biggest one, and this can apply really to any social platform, this perspective of, oh my gosh, I've got to be on LinkedIn, or I've got to be on X social platform. So we're going to do this thing. I'm a big believer in begin with the end in mind, quoting Stephen Covey's masterful
You're a data
piece.
person, so you have strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Do not waste your time on any platform unless you know what you're there to do, what your end goal is. And sure, that may shift slightly based on, what your outcomes, what you see and what's happening, but go in with a strategy and then work that strategy in your content, in all tentacles of that reach, because that really is, I haven't made that analogy before, but that really does fit. And it should show a blend of your persona, your business, and referring back to that 30,000 images per day that we're subject to. That's why you can't show up and I'll say sell on the platform. It's a little bit of provide some inspiration, provide some valuable content to your ideal client. That helps them draw in and follow you and learn from you.
Right.
And it helps them recognize you as the person they should be learning from, because more than half of people say they turn to LinkedIn first when researching a purchase decision for their business. Oh yeah, more than 50%. It's around 55%. And here's the magic, so to speak. I mean, there is magic, but not the millions of bucks in a heartbeat. The magic is they're turning to that platform first. So when you're consistent in the feed, your brand, I'm saying you in a very generic way, when your brand are consistent in the feed of providing value in advance of the decision being made, that's the secret sauce.
Right.
So approach your content with a plan. And I would say that's the big mistake. People say, oh, I upgrade my profile, I posted X, Y, and Z. And all it did was a time suck. I'm
Right.
like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
all social platforms could be a massive time suck. So don't even go on there unless you have a plan. So
Right.
probably those three things.
Yeah. And and it's funny because in my notes to talk about this, I wrote, reading on your website,
Yeah.
the word strategy. And that
Yes.
really is so important because you have to figure out, why are you there? Because everything that's going to be how you write your sections. It is everything. Are you there to make business connections? Are you there to get a job? Are you the, and everything
Right.
comes
Find
from that.
clients. Right. Right. Absolutely. Begin with the end in mind.
Yeah, and it shouldn't just be because Iris and Deb told us I should be.
Yeah, go find something else.
I know. Well, oh my gosh, we are almost at the top of the hour. We have to do this again just because, we just scratched the surface on this.
Oh my gosh, we
But
did.
tell me more about how people connect with you and what are the services that you provide?
Sure. Well, I probably provide more services than I can describe in a fair way. So I tend to focus on my signature program called
Okay.
6 Weeks from Questions to Confidence
Mhm.
and Business on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
That's a framework that I've developed, tested, and is proven.
Mhm.
And it does cover the branding and the strategy that
Mhm.
allows you to customize it to what you're there to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then it follows on with some included time in the membership that we continue that community and collaborate. So a masterclass series, that 6 weeks from questions to confidence, membership tools
Mhm.
that are like a private vault. You can pull things off the shelf and then kind of go at no particular order. And then I do offer customized training for one or several members of a team, because I think that's so key is know what you're there to achieve, and then
Right.
let's work the plan.
Mhm.
So, and then
So how do people find you?
Well, I'm going to say, find me on LinkedIn. So it's Iris Culp, and I intentionally do this. It's Iris Culp. I see growth. And that
And
is
it's your initials. It's not like the drink at 7-Eleven. It's
IC dash growth. Absolutely. And then I have a second website that my brand is IC growth, pun intended. And then my specialty website around this topic, because I do training to help people understand human communication. A lot of that is on the IC growth. And then I have your LinkedInexpert.com.
Perfect.
So yeah. So that would be it.
I love it. This really has been fascinating because, hopefully we've convinced the people who went, and or at least made them think, well, maybe I should be there. But for those who are going, okay, well, maybe I should be there, but now what? Yeah. That's when they contact Iris. And so, that's the key is to do that. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to say something about. I think it would be approach anything you do with intentionality and lead with value. So that kind of goes back to know your plan and work your plan and serve your ideal clients, which as a business and entrepreneur leaders, that's always part of your thing. And then, I think LinkedIn has a very unique space. It is more credible than any other social platform there is. That's going on 5+ years. They have been pretty wise in avoiding some of the missteps of some of the other social platforms. And it's a very unique space to keep your brand strong.
I love it. Well, I've been having an absolutely wonderful discussion with Iris Culp of IC Growth. And again, that's I and C. Iris Culp. And I can't wait until we do this again. But until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.